Welcome back to another War of the Visions video. Today we're going to do another Should You Pull for Howlet and Chel, who are joining this week's busy banner schedule with Skull and Mariali as well. So it's a packed week. You have a lot of decisions to make if you are going to pull. So we're going to make sure that you have all the information for you. And I'm going to say right now that all 4 units, the MRs and URs, are all really good. So I really think you can't miss. It's just figuring out what your account needs. A quick thank you to warofthevisionscalc.com for all the information in this video. They are doing amazing work, so please buy them a coffee/Visior. Okay, let's talk about Chel. She is an MR unit ice element, and she is a main job green mage, which is interesting. We haven't seen that in a while. Sub job time mage and sub job thief. So just a boatload of utility all in one package. You can imagine how that's going to work out. And then the typical hat cloth accessory, rod for weapon. So nothing special there. Looking at her stats, wow, that's some low HP, but that's okay. And then TP, AP, everything's fine there. I mean, TP is actually kind of low, but that's fine. Attack doesn't matter. Magic is on the low side, but she's really a support unit, so you gotta frame it that way. Crit rate, again, not that important. Dexterity is quite low. Luck is average, and then agility, woo, that is some nice agility right there. So that's what you want to see. Although maybe you do, maybe you don't. I read a really interesting Quicken guide on Reddit today, and I'm totally blanking on the username. I'm so sorry for that. I'll put it in the description of the video. But they were saying how the faster the Quicken user, the harder it is to time. So this is going to be our fastest Quicken user. So she doesn't look remarkable on stats, but she is going to be fairly remarkable in terms of her skill set. So we'll look through all of that. She's going to get some HP from her board, but that's not that important. Okay, so taking a look at her resistances again. Oh, ouch! She is weak to everything except for magic. Weak to fire, which isn't terrible. I mean, you know, a rain's gonna whack on her, but you know what? You don't really want her to get hit with anything. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. Like, if she gets, you know, hit by a light breeze, she's gonna break. So, you know, keep her away from people. She's also like weak to charm, which is hilarious to me. But again, the whole game plan is that she never really interacts with your opponent. For the most part, we'll see. Like, you know, there's some debuff stuff she can do. So, and then she gets a TMR that's a rod, and I really like this. This is better than the old magic TMRs that had like a status effect on them, because your magicians and like will not attack normally. So this actually has a useful effect. It gives you magic attack and spirit penetration, and sure, you might lose a bit of magic on your super cool Sage's Staff or whatever you have on your character, but you have, like, for example, in the tower this week, I had the end staff on 2 units because I was using a party with 4 staff users, and I started running out of staffs. So this is definitely a nice one to add into the collection. The spirit penetration is really cool. Master ability, agility 10%, very, very good. And then decreased activation time 250. We saw decreased 200 activation time on Skull, and this is even better. So, and she's also time mage, so she gets that 250 reduction for speed cast. If you want to see how the math works out on that, I actually went over it in the Skull video, so you can go back and watch that. But basically, it means she's going to be casting her spells 2 to 3 clicks faster than other mages, which just means they're going to come off way faster in the turn order, which can be very, very important. Okay, so support skills, she gets a lot. She gets the magic resist from green mage. She gets the buff duration one. She gets the CT null, which is important if you are using auto with her, that she doesn't haste herself and get stuck at the back line. There's the thief's lore, which is incredibly important. You get move and agility, speed cast from time mage, and then acquired AP up. So I think the speed cast and the thief's lore are an easy addition to her kit, and then maybe the CT depending on how you're using her. And then for counter abilities, she's going to get the dispel one, the slow counter, and then the increase her agility. So I like the slow counter a lot, but I just don't think she's ever going to use it. I mean, she's just so weak. So okay, her skills. So Green Mage, this is pretty typical stuff. We've seen this all on Helena already. So there's Ruin, and then there are her Imperils. Or no, this isn't the Imperil. These are the ice, the buffs that will increase their resistance on allies, and then a Dispel, and there's the Imperil. So the Imperil is her AOE attack there that is at the bottom, and it decreases elemental resistances by 25%. So even if she's not doing an incredible amount of damage, she is able to make all of your other mages hit, or all your other characters hit harder, which is very, very nice. And then if you sub this, you actually get the D Protect and the D Shell, and you get Vitalize to increase agility. And when you increase agility rather than just haste a unit, that also affects their evasion, so that's pretty cool. So this is already a very nice little kit that you could try out with a turn off and on function. You could probably find some cool stuff. The Time Mage is where people have been really using her in Japan because they use her for Quicken. So you can see she has Quicken, Haste, Slow, Transposition, Float, Comet, and Immobilize. So really the Haste and the Quicken, those are the two important ones that you want to use here. In manual PvP, it's going to be very important. Then for Thief, she gets your Steel Vision, Steel Heart, and Steel Time. So she gets it all. She can really help out. She has the Snipe Dagger, she has Steel, and she has that Shadow Cast. So there's really nothing from a Thief that she doesn't have. She doesn't have Sneak Attack, but you don't want to use Sneak Attack anyway. So this is just incredible. If you don't have a Steel Heart yet, then what a good unit for you to get. You're going to get this Green Mage utility, Time Mage utility, and then Steel Heart, Steel Time, all of that added to your kit on a fast unit that can keep up during a raid or during whatever content you want. So I mean, that's pretty incredible. Next up, we have some comparisons, and the first one that we're going to make is with Helena, who is also a main Green Mage, someone that also has Time Mage with Quicken, but then instead of Thief, she has White Mage and a bunch of healing capabilities. So you can see that their stats are pretty comparable around, except there's two major differences. So Chel's going to have more agility over Helena, and then Helena's going to have more magic than Chel is. So Helena could do more damage and heal, but Chel's going to have the Thief utilities and more speed to do everything else, which is very, very important. Neither of them are very sturdy at all. And when you look at their magic abilities, so Helena gets 15% I think magic on her board, and then 30% magic on her master ability, and then she gets a little bit of agility, so her magic really does scale quite a bit compared to Chel's, but I don't think it's a unit that you're putting in your party for your magic damage. It's for the utility of that unit. So I think that Chel wins overall in that category because of the increased speed and the decreased activation time. And then Ayaka I thought would be a fun comparison because, again, it's not a unit that you're putting in primarily to deal damage. If that really is your goal, like, yes, she can deal damage, and Holy is very useful, but there are just better units for that. So you can see that Ayaka also doesn't have like super high magic, and she also has high agility, and then she just gets all the UR stats. So this is really here to show you the difference between an MR and a UR, kind of in the same role, and that they're not going to, your MRs are always going to be lacking in stats, but as long as they have the important stats and the important skills where it matters, then they can do their one job. So Chel can definitely do her job. Okay, we'll talk about Howlet next, which is our UR Wind Rune Knight, new job for us. Well, it was supposed to be until we got Ryu, the Halloween version. So we actually are familiar to this. So Rune Knights are like red mages, or sorry, they're like spell blades that are not tanky. Instead of having that magic tanky focus, they have a magic attack focus. So they're going to have higher magic. They're not going to have spirit and magic resist stuff. They're going to have magic spirit penetration, so lots of cool stuff with Rune Knights. They actually are comparable to red mages as well, because they start with 50% of their max AP. So Howlet's got okay HP, AP is fine too, and then he has really high magic, and we talked about this last time, that these sword users have to have higher magic because the magic swords they equip give less magic stat than a Sage Staff or a Platinum Rod would give. So this is how they make up for it. They give them more magic on the unit itself. And then dexterity and luck are both very good. Agility is good as well. Like these are all high stats for sure. Dexterity is not high, it's about average, but the luck and agility are good for sure. So everything looks great so far. And then he gets more magic, so that's also great. I always forget that I put that little transition there. Okay. So, resistances, weak to ice, there's a lot of ice around, but strong against earth, and we all love that, because this guy is supposed to be your Kilfei killer. And then he's weak to strike, which is fine, because you don't have a lot right now, weak to projectile, strong against magic, and a little bit against slash. So, all around, these are fine resistances, I don't have an issue with this. And then his TMR is a coat, it's a cloth armor, and it gives you a little bit of, I actually like this, gives you some HP, or HP, defense, and spirit. And it can consume your own HP to give you a chance to dodge the next physical attack, I guess. So that's pretty interesting, I guess, if he's going to be taking some heat, but if you have a tank, then maybe that's not important. And then he gets spirit penetration and magic for himself. And that's very, very good. So you can see how he's stacking the magic stat quite high. He can go through a certain percentage of the opponent's magic tank's spirit. So it makes for a very powerful attacker. Moving along with his kit, we can see the support skills. He gets his increased wind attack, decreased ice resistance, kind of that devil may care attitude that these rune knights have. They share kind of like some spellblade abilities and some soldier abilities, so they have that kind of self-damage aspect to them as well. And then the red mage increased the initial AP. We've got another runeblade spirit penetration and accuracy, that's really good. And then the nullified doom from white mage and magic resist from the red mage. So I think in a lot of parties, you're going to have a proper tank for him, and then you're just going to go straight wind attack, like both the rune blade or rune the passives here, and then maybe sometimes you might go for the magic resistance if you really need it in certain matchups, but otherwise I think you just go for power. Okay, and then the counter, this is a really cool counter. It's like Orlando's refresh, that they get a little bit of AP back, but then you also get the magic reflex and then the regenerator. So I do like the magic reflex too. I think we're gonna have to find out how important it is to get AP back, because you start with a bunch of AP, whereas with Orlando you don't. So Orlando getting AP is quite important, but Howlet will start with a bunch. Something to keep in mind is that his basic attack is actually scaled off of strength, or attack, and not magic. So it's not like Kilfei that can do a bunch of damage with a regular attack. It's going to be a pretty weak attack to gain some AP there. But then if you take a look at his main job, he's got a bunch of different skills, and my mic's in the way here. I'm actually blocking myself. So there's no TP skills so far. So we've got our arrow blade, and then a arrow blade down at the very bottom. There's this absorb skill that buffs your own slash resist penetration, your magic, and then absorbs some HP. So it's going to be a really weak attack, but it heals you and sets you up for a really big attack. Then there's like the hazard break, but the magic version. And then this a blade that hits people for extra if they have float. So I guess Gilgamesh has float. So just a bunch of damaging skills. They all scale off of magic, which is really important. If you want to get the TP skills, you have to get the sub job, and that's where you're going to get the kind of that hazard form, but for magic users, and the debuff for the wind resistance. So far he doesn't have a lot of TP or AP generation. You have to give him a TMR, or we can take a look at his sub jobs. So we also have the red mage, and when you do that, you're going to get Kira, you're going to get Arrow, you're going to get your Dispel, Sleep, and most important is Jamming Thrust, JT. That's super important. That's one of the best skills. It's powerful, super long range, and you can actually cancel a cast with that. So I love that skill. I can't speak highly enough of it. So I would actually, and what's really important about it as well, so when you take a look at his skills here, most of them are slashing types. So if someone has slash resistance, they'll take less damage against Howlet from Howlet. But the jamming thrust will give you a magic type attack that's very powerful, and that's going to allow you to hit more types of units and kind of switch it up depending what you need. But if you take a look at this, we still don't have a lot of TP skills that we can use proactively to gain some AP, so maybe that starting AP will be important. And then finally we have White Mage, and White Mage has Asuna. You're going to get the Cure, Protect, Chel, you'll have Revive, you're going to have Curata, and you're going to have Curaga. So a lot of really good healing, and if you use him as a healer because he has a really high magic value, then he will be generating a lot of AP. But still, if you put this on him to generate AP with Protect and Chel, one, they don't give very much AP, and two, they're going to just mess up his AI a bunch. So I'm kind of wondering how this guy generates AP. It's kind of tricky. I think you're going to want to put bells on him, and if you don't have bells, Lunaverve, something with a really high TP cost, and then maybe you do need that Red Mage passive after all. Now let's take a look at his LB. So this is going to be a ranged attack. It's going to hit with slashing wind type damage, fairly strong, and will decrease their wind resistance. So these are always fun LBs. They're great in raids. They allow you to basically, if you're in a wind party, make everybody else do more damage as well. So this is really cool. It's fine. It costs a lot of AP though, and that's going to be a concern for him. Okay, so let's make some comparisons. We're gonna do, you've already seen this, we compared him to Ryu in Ryu's video. So what we'll do is we'll pop up their master abilities as well, and they're basically very similar. Howlet gets a little bit more power, and then Ryu gets a little bit more defense because he has a paladin sub and he can tank. Ryu gets more slash penetration naturally, but then the oh sorry, they're actually switched here, so I made a mistake. The master ability underneath Howlet is supposed to be underneath Ryu and vice versa. So Ryu gets natural slash penetration, and then Howlet gets the spirit penetration, and they both get both of those skills within their actual drop kits though, so it's just their master ability that differs. And then Ryu gets the earth bonus of having those master ability components, whereas Howlet does not. So really Howlet just becomes way more of a DPS unit and is very interesting to us because he can go after kill Fae, whereas Ryu is just going to be more of a bruiser. But I mean, really, like I said in the other video, you can't really go wrong with either of them. They're both good. They're both great units. Okay, and then I wanted to compare Miranda. So if you want more comparisons, go back to the Ryu video. I compared these guys to Ramza as a Spellblade UR, and then I compared, well, kind of, not his main job, and then I also compared them to Medina as a mage. So now let's compare them to a red mage, and then we've kind of checked in with most of our magic classes that we could use as comparisons. So red mages also start with half of their max AP at the beginning of the battle. So you can see Miranda gets way less magic than these guys do, but she's also has a paladin sub, but she gets a bunch of magic in her master ability. She gets magic from her board, so her magic does end up going up overall, but she gets a bunch of utility that these guys don't necessarily have. Like she's very good for sure, so I wouldn't count her out, but you can definitely see that these rune knights, they're built to do damage, they're built to be attackers. Well, that's it for this video, and we have to ask ourselves, should you pull? So for Chel, I'm going to say yes, because she has so many roles that she fills, and you likely need somebody that fills those roles. Now, if you already have a bunch of Steel Hearters, you have people that you use for Quicken, like Miranda or Phoebe or someone like that. If you have someone like Helena already built, then yeah, you're not going to pull for her. Your account doesn't need her, but I think that a lot of accounts will. And then the same thing with Howlet. He's a totally new class. If you didn't go for Ryu, then I think that he's going to be a fine addition to anyone's account. And the only reason you really wouldn't pull him is if you're just so stacked on magic attackers and you really need to build out another side of your team with Pierce or with let's say some physical attackers slash attackers, then in that case maybe you're not going for him. But otherwise, he's going to improve any account. He's going to give you a new option, and he's going to give you spirit penetration. So I really think that these guys are super safe. Now, one thing I do want to talk about is that my last video already came out for Skull and Mariali. I think my verdict still stands on both of them, especially Mariali. She's just got a lot going on that is very good for her, and she doesn't really clash with these two. Skull, I think his value goes down a little bit because Howlet is coming out now, but I still think he's really good. I'm going to pull for him now that he was delayed. I have some Vizier saved up, so you can look forward to that. And that's it for the video. So I hope it was useful to you, and you can let me know in the comments below, and we'll get to discussing. All right, see you next time.